So first of all, confirming your hypothesis is incredibly important to start. And even though founders of startup companies are very motivated, very intelligent, very accomplished people, you have to realize that there is a customer at the end who will buy your product. And are you meeting that customer's unmet need? So you should go out and pressure test your hypothesis that you are indeed producing a product that a customer actually wants. And sometimes that means that you might need to pivot your approach to produce a product for which there's an immediate need, later getting to a product that you think can do more for more people. The second thing is to understand the ecosystem around your device. Who is actually buying it? Who is actually paying for it? Who is actually using it? And who would it be used on? And you might be surprised how much more complicated the overall ecosystem is than just simply, I make a product and somebody buys it. Particularly in the United States, there are group purchasing organizations, there are value analysis committees, there are a lot of stakeholders involved in the process that you may not have considered at the beginning of your activities. And the last thing about confirming your hypothesis is, do I have the right team in place? And I'm not talking specifically about executives in your company. I'm talking about advisors that represent different stakeholders in the ecosystem that can bring different perspectives to you. And you can use those perspectives to refine your approach and make a product that is truly attractive, not just to users, but also to regulators and to payers who are going to be allowing your product on the market and getting you payment and reimbursement for your product. Another important topic, of course, is funding. And funding comes from investors. You can get off the ground with sort of seed funding or with angel funding or friends and family, but real funding will come from investors in a usually dilutive way. In order to appeal to those investors, you really need to be able to show them that you really have everything thought through. Not just, I have a product, I need to get through FDA, I'm going to go through a certain pathway, I'm going to do a certain clinical study, but that you also completely understand the ecosystem that I described earlier, in that you know who's going to buy your product, you know how much they're willing to pay, you know how you're going to achieve clinical adoption. All of those things are important because investors are going to do their diligence on you, and they're not going to give you funding unless you demonstrate that you have a command of all of those topics. Next, I mentioned the roadmap to exit. The reason I'm saying this is important is because often your end customer might not be a specific patient or even a specific hospital. Let's say you're looking for an acquisition. You want to be acquired by a large strategic partner. Well, you usually don't know ahead of time what that partner is looking for. Their portfolio needs might be different than what you thought your product would be doing. And so it's important to engage with those strategic partners, to ask them, what are they looking for? What do you need to build to be attractive to them and achieve your roadmap to exit? Building a product all the way to the end and then shopping it around to strategic partners is frequently met with disappointment. And finally, telescoping your timeline. I consider there to be three pillars to successful commercialization. One is getting through regulatory. That's pretty obvious. I don't need to talk about that. But the second one, which is achieving reimbursement, and the third one, which is achieving clinical adoption, are as important, if not more, than getting through regulatory. So as part of your exploration, looking at users, payers, etc., you really should be figuring out, how can I do the least amount of work in the least amount of time and satisfy all three of those different audiences, the regulator, the payer, and finally the clinician who's going to use your product. Rather than doing three separate trials, which takes a lot more time and a lot more money, you probably want to figure out how to telescope them by building the appropriate endpoints into your studies, engaging the appropriate advisors, and so forth, in order to be efficient, both in terms of time and money.